What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. If you've got 10 minutes, then you've got plenty of time to get this bicep workout in. You see, I'm going to give you two options that you can do either at home or at the gym that are going to destroy your biceps in 10 minutes flat. You see, I talk about it all the time. You can either train hard or you can train long, but you can't do both. If we trade in some of that workout length that maybe you're accustomed to for a lot more intensity, you're going to feel firsthand exactly why it's possible to build muscle in a short period of time. So with that being said, let's start breaking down the lighter version of the workout, and by no means does that mean easier. All right, so when we're talking about a lighter workout here, remember, first of all, this is relative. It doesn't mean necessarily light. It means lighter than the heavier version of the workout we're going to show you later. Vice versa, when we're talking about the heavier one, it doesn't mean absolutely heavy, where we would actually be training for strength if we got to the low rep ranges with more rest time. We're talking about heavier than the lighter workout. Both of them, however, are geared at hypertrophy and muscle growth. And right here, when we target the biceps, one of the best ways to do it is with a single band. Now, I know what you're saying. Band workouts are easy. Maybe, until you try this one. The fact is, we're going to start here with a single exercise, and you're going to perform it for 45 seconds on and 15 seconds off. Now, the goal would be to be able to perform it non-stop without resting through the duration of the 45 seconds. If you had to stop, you stop briefly, and you get right back into it again, and you keep going, because what we're trying to do here is go after a metabolic fatigue. We're trying to use metabolic stimulus as a way to create muscle growth. And if we keep pushing ourselves through that burn, we're going to get there faster. But we don't just have one exercise here. We take that first exercise for 45 on and 15 off, and we repeat it for a total of 2 times. That means 2 minutes for the first exercise. We then go and we repeat 4 other exercises in the same fashion. So what do the exercises look like? Well, we start with this one here, and this is a no money banded curl. And what the advantage is of band supply here? Well, it's not just the fact that we can resist ourselves through flexion of the elbow through the curl itself, but we can also pull apart. And you can see that as we pull the band apart, we're getting resisted external rotation. So we're not just getting biceps focus here, we're getting biceps with external rotation in the rotator cuff, which is actually an extremely powerful combo when you realize that the biceps tendon, being an integral part of the shoulder joint itself, gets additional benefit from having the balance of the rotator cuff to keep that shoulder in good health. 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, 2 rounds. From here we move on to the second exercise, and now this is the banded drag curl. We shorten the moment arm, we bring the elbows back, we take our hands, we bring them closer to our body, and we curl from this position, which shifts the focus actually to the long head of the biceps, the outside portion, which is what's responsible more for that biceps peak. And you can see I'm just trying to drag my hands up my torso as much as I can, allowing the elbow bend, the flexion part that attacks the biceps, to happen mostly back behind my body. You should feel a tight contraction as you get as high as you possibly can. From here, you lower the band back down, repeat, again, 45 seconds on and 15 seconds off. We next move on to the third exercise here, which is called the step back curl. And for this, all I have to do is anchor the band to anything that's a little bit higher than me. Ideally, if you have a pull-up bar in your doorway, this would work perfectly. With the band anchored in place, I grab onto it, I step back to get good tension, and I curl. But I'm not done yet. From here now, I have to take a giant step backwards. And what that does is it places an additional isometric overload to maintain that elbow flexion in that position through the duration of the step back when I'm getting more tension here on the band, and then come back in and repeat it again. Now, the extra benefit here is the fact that I'm getting my biceps into a state of complete contraction. I've got elbow flexion, I've got supination, and I've got that all-important third component that we oftentimes overlook, which is shoulder flexion. So this setup sets us into the position for having that complete bicep contraction. Remember, 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. Again, 2 rounds of this. We move on to the fourth exercise here in the workout, and this is the crossbody banded hammer curl. So the slight positioning difference here is instead of being in the neutral position that you would normally perform a hammer curl out of, we go into a fully pronated position. And we know that if we go into a pronated position, we actually activate the brachialis a little bit more than if we do it from that mid position. Now, why is that a benefit? Well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, we know that the brachialis is a muscle that we want to develop if we want to have a fully developed upper arm as it lies underneath the biceps, but more importantly, think about where this is in this workout. This is the 4th exercise in. You're already likely burning and cursing my name out. We got to offset that bicep load a little bit and give it a little bit of a break at a key moment in the workout, and this is why this is placed in here perfectly at this time. Remember, as always, once again, the 45 on, 15 off, 2 rounds. And then we wrap up our workout here in this final 2-minute stretch, this one reserved for the leaning stretch curl. And to perform this, we want to angle our body forward with our biceps facing almost directly down towards the ground. This is going to place an enormous stretch on the biceps because we have our arms here back into extension behind our body, as opposed to, remember we talked about, flexion of the shoulder. Now, from here, we want to try to drive our hands down towards the ground and straight forward. They should almost be facing directly forward if you've done this properly. At that point, you should feel a pretty intense bicep contraction, but most importantly, you're taking advantage of that stretch reflex. You have an opportunity here to get a strong contraction in the 5th spot of the workout because you have the added stretch reflex that's going to be used to your advantage. Make sure you take advantage of it if you want to get through the remainder of this workout. And with that, in just 10 minutes, you've managed to torch your biceps with a single band, probably in the comfort of your own home, and more importantly, you've convinced yourself that good things can happen if you're willing to put the work in. But let's say you want to go the other route. You want to go a little bit heavier, but you still just have those 10 minutes. Well, in that case, all you need is a single pair of dumbbells, and you do this instead. If the option you chose was to train a little bit heavier, then the goal should be a little bit different. The focus is not using metabolic stress to drive hypertrophy and muscle growth. The goal here is to use tension overload as well as eccentric overload to create that stimulus for growth. And we can do that, like I said, with a single pair of dumbbells, and in some cases, here in the last exercise, a single one of those dumbbells from that pair. But what we start with is the following exercise, and it is the dumbbell straight bar curl. So we're going to mimic a straight bar by placing those dumbbells end to end like you see me doing here. What that does is it demands that we move them at the same pace, which actually exposes any muscle imbalances you might have between the right and left side. But more importantly, it just gets us into simulating the movement of the bar as opposed to 2 independent dumbbells, which, as you're going to see here in a minute, is going to actually become a little bit easier for you when we need it the most. We do this for a minute. If we can get through the entire minute, you've done your job. If you can't and you have to rest, just like we did in the light version of the workout, you would take a momentary rest pause, get right back into it, and finish out the entire minute. Now for these types of exercises, however, because the load is higher, we're going to get a 1-minute rest period. So you've got a 1-minute work period, 1-minute rest period, and as you can see, the workout is structured with additional exercises all the way down until we get towards the end, where I have a special surprise. But that's not here yet. The next exercise up is what we need to discuss, and that is the dumbbell drag curl. So for the drag curl, just like we did with the banded drag curl, the goal is to try to hit the long head of the biceps by bringing those dumbbells in closer to your torso, getting the elbows back behind you, and simply trying to ride those dumbbells up the front of your body as tight as you possibly can. You can see the contraction here on that outer portion of the biceps. You can feel the intensity of the contraction if you're doing it right. The fact is, in the second spot here, it actually is beneficial because it's offloading some of the tension that was on the biceps from the first exercise by the change in the moment arm to allow you to continue to do this, ideally without rest. But this is only going to last you for a minute because we're going right back to the curl again, as you can see here in exercise number 3, this time to the dumbbell standing alternating curl. So now, how is this going to be possible if you've already fatigued the biceps through the first 2 exercises? Well, the big difference here is that you're able to move a lot more weight when you move them individually than when you move them together. And a lot of it has to do with your ability to control your torso via your core strength. When you move 2 dumbbells up together, let's say they weigh 50 pounds apiece, your body's trying to stabilize 100 pounds moving in this direction. So you have to have a stronger core contraction and more stability to do that. In the case of a single alternating dumbbell curl, you're only having to do half of that. Not to mention you can actually lean into the arm and actually create a little bit more leverage for the working arm that makes this exercise possible even though it's put in that 3rd spot. And we continue here, again, after a 2-minute time period, to go to our 4th exercise, which is the cross-body dumbbell hammer curl. And once again, just like we did in the banded version here, we're going fully pronated to force that brachialis to do more of the work. You can see that even as we crank out rep after rep, it would feel like it would be very difficult here. But we're not just relying solely on the biceps. We have the help it needs in the brachialis. We want to make sure that we use it to get the job done. And this brings us to the 9th minute of the workout here. Right when your biceps are ready to pop, we kind of stick the final dagger into them with this bicep waiter curl. And the waiter curl's job is to actually take the forearms that probably want to kick in at this point and dominate the movement and say, no, you can't. You're going to stay out of this thing and let the biceps finish this off. So you get into this wrist extension position to support the dumbbell, where the top of the dumbbell basically stays level with the ceiling that you're curling in for the duration of the exercise. Now this one's only being done for 45 seconds, but it doesn't make it any easier. Your goal is to simply lift that dumbbell straight up to the ceiling by getting those wrists taken out of it to prevent the forearms from kicking in too much. If we can make it through the entire 45 seconds here, you get a brief 45-second rest before we hit our last combination here, and this is our burnout. I mentioned a special surprise. The goal here is to try to make it through the entire minute without resting, or at least doing some type of contraction, because you got an option here. You either start with holding this isometric contraction in the mid-range of the bicep curl, which, by the way, is the most difficult portion of the curl. You hold it there as long as you possibly can. Now, at this point in the game, it's likely you may not be able to hold it for the entire time, but it doesn't mean that you stop. You can actually try to force the eccentric overload of this exercise, and that's being done by just simply delaying and slowing down the straightening out of your arms as they start to be overcome by the weight of the dumbbells in your hands. Don't let them just drop. Slow it down with every bit of effort you have remaining. If you make it through the end of the minute here, it's a job well done, and believe me, you've earned it. And once again, in 10 minutes now, you've got that workout here laid out in front of you step by step with just that single pair of dumbbells that's going to get the job done as well. It doesn't matter which path you choose, different stresses all leading to the same goal of more bicep growth, more hypertrophy. Remember, guys, it doesn't mean that you have to train long in order to get results. All you have to do is be willing to train hard. And you can trade in a lot of that workout length if you're willing to up the intensity level at which you train with. If you're looking for a program that encourages that and shows you how to do it step by step, you can head to ATHLEAN-X.com right now and find the program that's best suited to your current goals. In the meantime, if you found this video helpful, if you like this series, let me know below what else you want to see, and I'll do my best to do that for you. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.